AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
Chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
You, sir. And Mr. Toby Tompley. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Shea Dixon here in about 15 minutes from right now. Ross Jackson next hour. Sean Salisbury, hour 3. A new era of LSU football begins, I guess, today because the LSU Tigers are on the practice field for the first time under Frank Wilson, who will address the media tonight. So we have a ton to do, and glad you're here. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Well, this was absolutely inevitable. Tyler Shough has been named the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints for this Sunday's game against the Los Angeles Rams. It was reported early Tuesday. I believe Ian Rappaport had it first. The New Orleans Saints have now made it official. It's Tuesday, so it's an off day in the NFL, but word started to spread. Rappaport had it first that both Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler had been informed, and now the Saints have put it out there via social media post. It's interesting because if you go back through this offseason, of course, throughout fall camp or training camp with Moore and Rattler, there was a quarterback battle. Rattler ended up getting the nod, and Kellen Moore, was asked back in late August about the chances of both playing there week 1 against Arizona. This is what he said back in August.
I don't see that likely. I think it's important someone's going to be our starter, and we're going to rally behind that guy, and he's going to go lead our team. So they played one guy, Spencer Rattler. A handful of days later, he was asked again about the possible quarterback shuffle. This was August the 26th, so this is about 2 weeks before the opener. That's the important thing, guys. We're not getting into this QB debate throughout this season. Spencer's our starting quarterback. Tyler's going to keep developing. Quarterbacks, you need a couple quarterbacks in seasons. These are long NFL seasons. And so, I think we do value that we have depth there, and we'll have to navigate the rest of it as we go. But, we're really excited about Spence. He's going to do an awesome job for us.
To his credit, he's not wrong. They have been committed to this point to one guy, Spencer Rattler. And despite the fact that he started 0-10 in his career as a starter, and this New Orleans Saints team this year is 1-7, they've stuck with one guy until Sunday. Now, what I'm going to say here is not new. It's the thing I've been saying since they drafted Spencer Rattler, and that I've said all season long. I'm sorry. It's the thing I've been saying since they drafted Tyler Shough, and I've been saying all season long. I do not believe the sole reason the New Orleans Saints are 1-7 is because Spencer Rattler has played poorly. I don't think that. He has played at times very clean, efficient football. Now, the past 2 weeks, turnovers have been a problem. You turn the ball over 4 times in a loss, that's a problem. You turn the ball over twice in the first half, including a deflected pick 6 and a fumble when you're driving early in the game, that's a problem. because now you're contributing to the losses. But that has not been the case for Rattler throughout. It has been the past couple of weeks. But I do not believe the Saints are 1-7 because Spencer Rattler has played poorly. They're 1-7 because they stink. They are a talentless roster right now. They are arguably the worst roster in the NFL. Rookie head coach, no experience at quarterback, you're void of talent, aging veterans with expensive contracts. It's all the reasons that we've talked about for years here about how Mickey Loomis has driven this organization into the ground because he has screwed up contracts and screwed up drafts and screwed up hires, and they stink. That's why they're 1-7, not because of Spencer Rattler. Okay? Also true, Spencer Rattler has not elevated this team. You had an opportunity to win at home against Arizona. Now, I don't know that we're all going to point to the end of the game with Juwan Johnson dropping that ball in the end zone or failing to make a contested catch in the end zone. That would have tied the game or given you a chance to go for two. Could Rattler have made other plays during the game? At some point, probably. A week later against San Francisco, you lose at home by 5, 26-21. Bottom line is, you've had some opportunities. Rattler is not elevating you, and you're not very good offensively. You're 22nd in the NFL in passing. You're 28th in the NFL in rushing. You're 29th in the NFL in scoring. You're averaging 16 points per game. Let me say that again slowly. You are averaging 16 points per game. You are not good. And I get it. You got a young offensive line at tackle. You got a bad offensive line in the interior. You're missing your starting center as your best line. You do not have dynamic weapons on the outside. Chris Olave grabbed the throat again this weekend when Tyler Shough went into the game. He got him intercepted because he bobbled the ball right up into the air, got it ripped away by Antoine Winfield. Because Chris Olave is not a legit number one. He's at best a 2, probably a 3 in the NFL. Rashid Shaheed fumbled on Sunday. You do not have dynamic playmakers on this offense. Alvin Kamara's old. So it's not all on Rattler. But you right now, the New Orleans Saints, have the best odds to finish with the worst record in the NFL. The Jets won this weekend. You have the best odds to finish with the worst record, meaning you'd have the number 1 pick. You are going to have a chance in April to draft the best quarterback in this class. I don't know who that is. We can have that conversation months from now. You're going to have the opportunity. And if it's not 1 and you pick 2 or 3 or 4, you're going to be picking somewhere in the top 5 with an opportunity to draft your franchise quarterback. You have got to know. I'm going to say this again. It's the same thing I've said for weeks. You have got to know what you have in Tyler Shough. You used the 40th pick on him. You spent all of the evaluation period, Senior Bowl, Combine, Pro Days, private workouts, evaluating last year's quarterback draft class, and used the 40th overall pick on Tyler Shough. You have got to find out if you have something there you feel like you can build around. I do not expect Tyler Shough to win the game Sunday in Los Angeles. I think the Saints will lose to the Rams. I don't know if Tyler Shough will win a single game as the starting quarterback of the Saints for the remainder of this season. Just like I'm not pinning all the losses on Rattler. And like I've said consistently since the offseason, I am not judging this team by wins and losses. They are not good enough, talented enough, deep enough of a roster to win games consistently in the National Football League. They are a bad football team. Anybody with 2 eyes could see this. Stevie Wonder could see it. Yeah, sorry. Hit the rim shot. Give me one. I deserve it. It's been a long 48 hours. I deserve it. Anyway, bottom line is you have got to give Tyler Shough the opportunity, the same opportunity that Spencer Rattler has had from the last year and through 8 games this year. You gave him half the season. Your team stinks. He's turning the ball over the past couple of weeks. You're not getting better. I get it. I'm not saying you throw dirt on Spencer Rattler's career after 8 starts this season. But he's had his opportunity. He's not elevating your offense. You have got to find out if you think there are things there with Tyler Shough that you can build upon. Because you're going to have an opportunity in April to draft whoever it may be. Fernando Mendoza, Lenoris Sellers. I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. Well, again, we'll figure that out at a later date, whoever's at the top of the draft. But the question you're going to have to answer in April is, are you using that top 5 pick on your franchise quarterback? Or are you using that on a cornerstone franchise piece, a rush end, the best receiver in the draft, a lockdown corner, whomever it may be? Are you using that pick on that player that's going to make you better to complement your young quarterback? Well, you can't figure that out in practice. Until you throw him out there in the deep end on NFL Sundays to see how he reacts, you can't figure it out. This is 100% the right decision, and it is not a knock on Spencer Rattler. Rattler is what he is. He's a guy that is a talented player, does some things well. But the reality is he's a fifth-round pick, and if you're a fifth-round pick, you're going to have to do something extraordinary to become a team's franchise quarterback. He has not done that. You have invested the 40th overall pick in a quarterback. You are going to give him an opportunity. That's the bottom line. You are going to give him an opportunity to see if he can live up to that investment. Make good on that investment. That starts on Sunday. Again, I am not going to pick the Saints to beat the Rams. I don't know that I'm going to pick them to win another game. They got some opportunities to play the Jets at home, play the Dolphins at home. You got some opportunities. But I'm not expecting this to be great. But we got to see what it looks like so you can have as much information as possible when you go into the draft process in April to know if you are picking a quarterback or if you're picking someone else to complement your young quarterback. And that starts on Sunday. It's 100% the right decision to start Tyler Shough, and he should start for the remainder of this season. Give him a 9-game sample as your starter to see how it looks. And you'll gather all that information, and you'll make a decision at the end of this season. But it starts on Sunday against the Rams. All right, it's after further review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Show Up in Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR. Of course, the official beer of the LSU Tigers and the official beer of the New Orleans Saints. So if you're going to be watching the game at home or at a sports bar, wherever you may be this weekend, make sure you have delicious ice-cold Bud Light as the Saints take on the Rams, or it's LSU's open date. Still, a great opportunity to go snag some delicious ice-cold Bud Light in the officially licensed white LSU cans and 16-ounce aluminum bottles. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light. Okay, y'all. It's after further review. Glad you're with us. Ross Jackson's going to be here in an hour. We'll get Ross's take on everything with Tyler Shough starting and the Saints moving here into the second half of the season. So we'll get to all that. Let me knock out a quick break. We'll come back. Shea Dixon will be with us. Brian Kelly fired. We know that by now. There's always ripples and waves in recruiting circles after that. Great time to bring on Shea Dixon from On 3, the Bengal Tiger, to talk about how the BK news has been received in recruiting circles. We'll do that next on AFR.
After further review.
We're brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Could not be easier if you're on hormone replacement therapy. And I've told you this before, man, if you're on HRT already, it is worth switching to Goodwood for a couple of key reasons. Number one, they got the lowest prices and never any contracts. Most places aren't going to lock you in a contract anyway, but they have the lowest prices. And when you go for your semi-annual blood labs, they pick up that expense. They don't charge you for that. They incur the expense for your blood labs. That alone is a reason to switch, and they're awesome. Your medicine, of course, will be shipped right to your door. Or if you want to go in for your weekly injections, you can do that as well at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness right there on Drusilla. And remember, Goodwood's part of that sort of like three-pronged. They've got Unique Physique, which is the GLP-1s, Unique Aesthetics and Wellness, which is Botox, and all the aesthetic clinic, $8 unit Botox, by the way. Jen's, tell your lady. And, of course, Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
So many different angles with the Brian Kelly news that we have to address. Certainly, when you fire a coach, you always anticipate there will be attrition on your current roster and in your recruiting class. That feels like an inevitability regardless of the program or the situation. No one better to talk to than Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, joins us now. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. It's only been less than 48 hours. I feel like it's been a month, and we have more than that to go. So I've been busy, but I guess it's fun to cover.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Has there been or what has been the reaction in recruiting circles to the Brian Kelly news?
Yeah, I mean, you've talked about it, but you look at, like, I'll compare it to Penn State, for instance, Matt, and when James Franklin got let go, my Hayes Fawcett, Louisiana native, and the rivals sort of expert on breaking recruiting news nationally, it was pinging about every 5 minutes with someone decommitting from Penn State. And when this has happened with Brian Kelly, no one has decommitted. And they have 17 commits, right? 16 commits going. I'll get to that in a second, but 16 commits were entering the weekend and 17 now, but one for next year, Peyton Houston. So you've got 17, 18 kids total there. None of them, all of them stuck. Why? Well, one, I think when you deal with Louisiana, obviously, and the majority of these kids are from Louisiana, that in border states, that they're committing to LSU for LSU. And the move to put Frank as the interim head coach comes with a lot of different, you could put together a long list of like why it makes sense to do that and stabilize things for a variety of ways. And one is in recruiting. Like people will talk about Brian Kelly and how involved was he in recruiting or wasn't involved to any large degree. And I've kind of said, all right, well, step back for a second. And that wasn't an expectation, right? It was understood that in this modern era of having a GM that would handle the NIL and rev share and everything else in hires, stuff like that. And that's Austin Thomas. And then you've got the recruiting side, which position coaches and a long kind of growing list for every college out there, staff who do that, beyond the on-field coaches. And then you've got a guy like Frank who, he wasn't, I don't know, he's got a bunch of titles. I'm sure you just throw recruiting coordinator in there. He's held it a few times, but is someone who knows everyone on the team, all their parents, everyone in recruiting. So you don't have that kind of Penn State feel to it. It's almost like, hey, look, they may not lose a commit. And if they do, maybe it's not a Louisiana kid and it's not surprising, but for a fact that if you put Frank Wilson in charge of the program for another month plus, that you don't have to worry too much about recruiting. So all of that to say that I would have been more surprised if kids just started decommitting, and that wasn't the case. And I'll end it by saying that they then had a commitment on Monday with no head coach, but they brought in Kervin Johnson Jr. out of Tioga, and the guy who leads the state right now as a senior in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. He's got great size and has been that late riser. We see it every year in Louisiana, and certainly with wide receivers, they're kind of grow on trees down here and ultimately end up NFL guys. And sometimes you didn't even see it coming in high school. And that's where guys like him fit in. So not surprising at all, and really not surprising at all that they then go out and get a commitment.
I want to come back to Kervin Johnson in a second, though, but stick on Frank for a moment. Clearly, Shea, one of the reasons that he was the associate head coach, but I think the hope is that he can keep the roster and the recruiting class together for the duration of this season. Could you elaborate a little bit more on Frank's ability to do that and how they're expecting that to play out over the next month?
I just think that, go back, I guess we call it the modern era, right, of recruiting. And we can just say start in like 2000 and go to now. So 25 years or so. There aren't many coaches out there who have stayed in college, who have been at numerous places that are as well known as Frank Wilson. Bruce Feldman wrote a book about Frank Wilson and that Ole Miss staff, Meat Market, which is probably one of the most, certainly not many books about recruiting. I probably should just quit my job and write books about recruiting. But Bruce, that whole thing was one of my favorite kind of insights into how recruiting really worked. And Frank was front and center in that book. And you can go back to that book, like the late Joe McKnight and everyone before then. Like, you've got a guy who for 20 years more has been at the forefront of recruiting 5-stars. And then the relationships he's got with former players is so strong because not just high school recruiting, but when they get on the team, your head coach is not someone who can sit there and have a rapport with everyone on the team. But Frank's the type that does, by and large. So I think that when you look at naming an interim, it makes complete sense to say Frank Wilson's on our staff, go for it, because nearly everyone on the team and their parents and everybody else have a relationship with Frank. They can text him, call him, whatever it might be, and they get things handled. And I think when you look at that, and there is a reality that 30-day window and everyone can enter the portal during the season, They did away with that. I don't think some people missed that because they weren't expecting LSU to.
Yeah, no, I missed
LSU
that.
fans to have to actually pay attention to that this year. But because of that, you don't have anyone leaving right away. But if you don't have someone like Frank there, it doesn't get stabilized in the next month to where you have this mass exodus the second that they are allowed to leave. And I think you can feel that way now because you're seeing what he's done in recruiting. They did not have a mass exodus with the recruiting class, so I wouldn't expect that to be the case on the team. It would be more of, hey, who is the new coach coming in or whatever it might be, and it's sort of natural attrition in a way that the blow is lessened. So it becomes so much less of a blow to you when you're in Louisiana. Most of your kids are from here, and you are a top 5 program in college football, that you can make a staff transition like this and not have to worry about the entire roster falling apart and not bringing in, the high school recruits that you wanted.
Yeah. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. By the way, just to clarify, even though that 30-day window no longer exists, players could still opt out of the remainder of the season if they chose to, and no one has chosen to do that. So it's important, but you're right about the 30-day window. Let me ask specifically about Lamar Brown, because I know that's a giant concern that a lot of people have. He was one of the ones that tweeted, thank you for being the first coach to believe in me, sort of a supportive tweet for Brian Kelly. Can you tell us where things stand there with Lamar Brown, considering he picked LSU over A&M and he was there front and center watching A&M really handle LSU Saturday night?
I'd be more worried about that if they had not made a change like this. And I don't even know how worried I was before that, like Saturday night. Obviously, look, A&M was the other school involved here, but this is a Baton Rouge kid, and I've got to remove myself from that mentality of the old school Bama days where it felt like every U-High kid was just going to Bama. And it was like, well, these kids go to school on campus already. They want to do something new, and this program is in a better place than you are right now. Even with A&M doing well this year, I think that you can argue LSU is still the top school of the two. So, and it's a sound argument. I don't think that my panic meter on a Lamar Brown type is not very high right now. And I remember when Lamar committed over the summer, this is a guy, Frank, back in middle school for Lamar, was having him at McNeese's camp. So when he was the head coach there, so their relationship goes back a long way. And I think one thing people need to remember, I have to remind myself of this often just because it's changed recruiting in a way, of NIL and rev share. Like every guy in the class is going to have an NIL rev share agreement in place. And that goes into play whenever they commit to a college. And I think we're seeing a lot fewer decommits, whether you have a coaching change or not. It's a lot tougher to flip guys now, just because the reality of, if they're in a spot where they've already, feel comfortable with everything, and it's not just a verbal commitment, but it's more than that, commitment-wise, that guys just sort of don't just say, hey, look, I'm reopening my process and exploring options. It just doesn't happen a ton. And because of that, I just don't, unless Lamar Brown is starting to visit A&M for games and all of that, I've always just said I think that he winds up at LSU.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, talking about the recruiting implications of Brian Kelly's firing. You mentioned Kervin Johnson, who, interestingly enough, LSU landed a commit after Brian Kelly was fired. Fill in the deets here, Shea, about who Kervin Johnson is and how they made this happen. Did we lose Shea? Wait, there we go. I think we got you back, Shea. Sorry about that. What's that? Oh, he dropped. Okay, well, let's see. I do want to ask him. Okay, I want to ask him about Kervin Johnson, so we'll get him back. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center, 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com. You want to see 2020? You can always call 924-2020 for the Williamson Eye Center. Of course, locations all over the greater Baton Rouge area, full-service optical shop, eye care, eyewear, eye surgery. And remember, as we head toward the end of the year, if you have those HSA or FSA funds, don't let them go to waste. Don't let them expire. You can use that toward your refractive procedure. LASIK, PRK, EVO, ICL, the custom lens replacement. No matter your age or refractive issue, you want to see 2020? Call 924-2020 for the Williamson Eye Center. Okay, we got Shea back. Shea, apologies, we lost you. I was just asking if you could fill us in on the details there about Kervin Johnson, who he is and how they ended up landing him here shortly after Brian Kelly's ouster.
Yeah, I'm glad you confirmed you lost me there because I just treated it like we were on a phone call. I was like, hello, Matt, are you am I there? We don't want that on the airwaves. But yeah, Kervin committed to Louisiana Tech in September, so kind of right as his senior year began. And this is someone they had been really watching closely because he was, as I noted, leading the state in receiving touchdowns. And I think he's right at about 1,000 yards. I know he has 14 touchdowns. So guys on 40-something catches, you're averaging 25 yards a catch. And also, really, I mean, this is the impressive, even just as impressive part. 6 foot, a little bit north, Matt, of 6'2" as a senior in high school, already north of 200 pounds. Really good measurables, has the track background, everything else that you want to see kind of from a dual sport, multi-sport kid coming out of Central Louisiana. And they've got 2 commits, right, at receiver, now 3, but Jabari Mack out of Destrehan, Kenny Darby out of Airline. Mack's the highest ranked of them all. Like, he's been a top 50 prospect since he kind of came onto the scene. He's 6 foot, 200 probably. And Kenny Darby out of Airline led the state in receiving last year. He's 6 foot, in that 180 something range. So Kervin Johnson being 6'2" and north of 200 gives you that completely different mold of receiver. It's the more of a bigger body, taller, and he's quite productive. So this was sort of a no-brainer. And if it weren't in Louisiana, I think he would have been picking up offers left and right. But it's one of those things when LSU makes a move on you and has found you in Sinlaw at a school like that at Tioga, that everyone else just sort of says nice grab by LSU there and doesn't even try to get in the mix. So I saw even he'd taken a photo with DJ Chark on the sidelines this past weekend, and he had a little bit of size on DJ, who obviously ain't too shabby from LSU to the NFL, and as a prospect coming out of that area. So this is one that I'd expect his recruiting ranking does not look the same as it does now when the next wave of updates come in the next month or so.
He's Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Make sure you catch him there and get him at Shea Dixon. Always appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, man, be well. Tuesday show is powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Yeah, man, you look at Kervin Johnson, and candidly, I didn't know that man's name before he committed to LSU. But that's one of those where you look at the recruiting ranking, and he's number 1,389 nationally. He's the 211th best wide receiver. You're going to tell me there's a 6'2.5", 195-pound dude from Central Louisiana who leads the state in receiving and touchdown receptions, who has a track background, and that dude is ranked number 1,389? Like, what am I missing? I don't know, man. I'm not the one out there putting out rankings, but something don't feel right about that. But LSU landed one. All right, it's after further review. Tuesday shows are powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana, sunequip.com, sunequip.com. We'll knock out a quick break. Thanks to Shea for being here. Ross Jackson in 45 minutes. We'll get his take on big change for the New Orleans Saints. Tyler Shough is the new starting quarterback. We'll go around the SEC when we come back next. Greg Sankey displeased with the new ruling by the NCAA. Total number of buyouts around college football. Lot to do. Glad you're here. It's AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark Downtown, Renaissance Southtown. Of course, Watermark Baton Rouge there at the old Louisiana National Bank building, the original high-rise building in downtown Baton Rouge. Gorgeous. They just celebrated the centennial of the building. Turned 100 years old just earlier this month. It's gorgeous if you've never been there. And they've done an amazing job at preserving the historical integrity of that building while adding the modern amenities to it. And there's some, by the way, there's some really cool guest rooms too. Like there's one guest room that was part of the old Louisiana National Bank building where there's no windows on the side, but there's a skylight on the top. So they're like literally unique, meaning only one rooms in that hotel that if you want to stay, you could say it's a fascinating place. Anyway, maybe you need a staycation. Maybe you have family coming in for the holidays or for an LSU football game. Make sure they know about Watermark Baton Rouge, an awesome place to stay, to dine at the Gregory downtown, or to host your next event. It's downtown Baton Rouge. It's Watermark Baton Rouge.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Plowing these fields in the hot summer sun. Over by the gate, Lordy, here she comes with a basket full of chicken and a big cold jug of sweet tea.
All right, glad you're with us here. A lot of reaction to Brian Kelly's firing from LSU players, current and former. Get to that here in about a dozen minutes from right now. It is a pretty fascinating time in these parts. And one of the things I do want to jump into next hour. So LSU's back on the practice field today. They were off Monday. It's their open day, but they're practicing today. And so this is the first day that Frank Wilson has had the team together and as the interim coach. And I've been asked a lot as we've talked about all the hypothetical scenarios for an LSU coach. And actually, right as I was about to come on air, I got someone asked me on the text line. I'll give you his name if I can find it real quick. Sorry. Anyway, I was trying to find who it was. Someone was asking point blank if I thought Frank Wilson could get the job full time. And I gave that a lot of thought today because I do actually think there is a scenario that could unfold. And I'll lay that out for you coming up here in about an hour from right now. Kirby Smart, during his press conference, was asked about LSU firing Brian Kelly. The Georgia coach, former LSU assistant, two-time national champ, had this to say about Brian Kelly's ouster.
I don't know. I mean, it's the world we live in. I don't know enough about what's going on over there. I think there's so much built around the playoffs. And it's like everything's boom or bust, and you can't have a normal season. People got to make decisions earlier based on how somebody does. And I don't know enough about it. I know it's high expectations. I coached at LSU, and a guy once told me, he said, that office you're in, that's not your office. You're borrowing it. And I knew right then that if you didn't win, you wouldn't be there long.
Says the safeties coach from 2003. I mean, he ain't wrong, though. It's a good line. I mean, he's been here. You know what the expectation is. It's after further review. By the way, there's a piece up. It's interesting at ESPN.com. Paula Levine has this up. It's a piece about all the buyouts. There's a combined, when you add Brian Kelly's $54 million buyout, the amount of money owed FBS coaches, buyout money, is $167.7 million. 167.7. James Franklin was at 49. When you look at this list, it's $21 million for Billy Napier, $15 million for Mike Gundy, $9.8 million to Sam Pittman, $6 million to Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, $5 million to Deshaun Foster, $4 million to Trent Bray at Oregon State, $2.4 million to Trent Dilfer from UAB, $1.5 million for Jay Norvell at Colorado State. And then, of course, the Brian Kelly buyout added to that. I know the question we keep consistently getting is, why do they keep doing contracts with buyouts? And I understand the question, but you almost have to look at it in reverse. Because if you're not willing to give that type of contract with that type of guarantee to a premier candidate, why would the premier candidate leave their job? Like, why would Lane Kiffin leave Ole Miss, where he's making, 8 figures a year and has a team on the verge of the playoff? Why would he leave for LSU without that type of financial guarantee? Same for Dan Lanning coming down from Oregon. Like, you have got to incentive those people have all the leverage in the negotiation. They have something you want. You want them. You're trying to lure them. They're negotiating from a position of strength. So this is the type of contract you have to give. It's why I think this is going to be the most fascinating hiring cycle, because of what LSU might be willing to spend, is one, and who is going to be making this hire is two. Because within 2 weeks, within a couple of weeks, you're going to have a new university president. And I believe there's a very strong push for when the new university president is in place to install a new athletic director. And will that athletic director, provided it happens that way, have the autonomy to hire a coach? Or is it going to be some combination of Verge Osbury and Austin Thomas and whoever the new president is. Like, can you get a president in place, an AD in place in time to then hire a coach and have everybody have their say? I don't know. It's a fascinating time because a lot of moving parts need to happen in very, very short order to make this happen, to know who's going to make the decision, how much money you're going to spend. And that'll tell you what type of pool you're fishing in for a new head coach. All right, it's after further review. We'll go around the SEC in just a second. We're brought to you by Parish Restoration, parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. Kill mold, remove odor. Go to parishrestoration.com. Listen, we're getting to cold and flu season. Maybe if you start getting sickness, virus, illness going through your work, you can always call Parish Restoration. They'll come, they'll spray their patented non-toxic dry fog. They'll knock out whatever viruses that is, all the way down to the spores, mold, everything. It's Parish Restoration. Maybe you had water intrusion. You have that odor. Maybe you have odor from smoke or from pets or from sweat. They can knock that out as well just by spraying their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. So home, commercial buildings, your vehicle, they can do it all. It's parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. All right, do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Texas Longhorns.
Arch Manning was in the concussion protocol, did not practice Monday ahead of the game against Vanderbilt this weekend. Sark said the team would update Manning's injury later in the week. He was injured on the first play of overtime in Texas's win against Mississippi State. If Arch can't play, it'll be grad transfer Matthew Caldwell.
The Auburn Tigers.
Hugh Freeze not ready to commit to Ashton Daniels as Auburn's starting quarterback. He took over for Jackson Arnold in the second quarter of the win against Arkansas over the weekend. Daniels is a transfer from Stanford. Not yet cemented as the starter this weekend against Kentucky, according to Freeze. We'll find out later in the week.
The Missouri Tigers.
Bo Prabula's injury was initially believed to be season-ending, but it might be slightly less serious. Matt Zenitz is reporting Prabula could return before the end of the season. He has a bad sprain and ligament damage, but no surgery is necessary. That is fantastic news because that injury looked gnarly at the time it happened, that tackle around the goal line.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
Oklahoma's flipped 2026 wide receiver Jashir Rogers from Penn State. He's out of Delaware. Had been committed to Penn State since July of 2024. He's the 22nd member of Oklahoma's 2026 class.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
JUCO safety Dre Riley has committed to Mississippi State. Got the offer just a couple of days ago. Didn't take long to accept. He picked Mississippi State over East Carolina, Arkansas State, Old Dominion, North Texas, Charlotte, Marshall, among others. 6'1", 185 out of Northwest Mississippi Community College.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
And Vandy landed a commitment from three-star defensive back Mason Lewis, committed to Vandy over Iowa and Kansas State. It's one-time Cal commit. That's noted ACC power, Cal. He also considered North Carolina. 6 foot, 195-pounder, expected to play defensive back, although he has played receiver in high school. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. We are presented by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Visit sunequip.com, sunequip.com. If you want to check them out, remember zero-turn mowers, tractors, combines, everything. They got gators as well. It's at Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. All right, we're going to knock out a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up hour number one. Tons of reaction from current former LSU players about Brian Kelly's firing. We'll get to that here on AFR.
AFR.
Let's Rev, y'all. REV. Let'sRev.com. 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 If you are looking for lightning fast, high-speed internet, and let's be honest, who isn't? You want Rev. Rev is powered by an all-fiber network, and it's backed by local support teams. The great part about the all-fiber network, it's underground, y'all, which means storms come, knocks down the power lines, knocks out your internet for a week and a half. That won't happen anymore. It's underground, so you're not going to lose connectivity. It's awesome. From the river to the lake to the bayou, Rev services nearly 70,000 residential and business customers. Parish Construction and Roofing, our parish office, we are Rev customers. Matter of fact, if you check out there's a Rev ad that they shot over at the parish office. Here at Guarantee Media, we are Rev customers. Our internet, our television service, Rev, REV. Let'sRev.com. 5 gigs, reliability of fiber. Let'sRev.com.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Look at her face, she ain't a fooling me. She thinks my tractor's sexy, it really turns her on.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. There's been so much reaction to Brian Kelly's firing, and sometimes those things will tell you will tell you how people feel. And you know, I'm not gonna. I don't have notes. I'm just gonna share this sentiment with you. I've done a lot of radio interviews, different shows, as you would imagine, right? I mean, Brian Kelly getting fired is a big deal. A lot of people want a Baton Rouge perspective and LSU perspective. So a lot of us in the media who cover LSU are doing a lot of interviews now. And I get asked in some form or fashion the same thing over and over again, which is to say Brian Kelly wasn't a fit. People didn't like him. They make fun of the family thing, and it's very it's the same thing over and over. And it's odd because it feels very much. It feels very much just like outsiders who are part of this echo chamber that just keep repeating the same thing over and over again that they've heard other people say. We have a piece up at LouisianaSports.net where we gathered a lot of social media reaction from like current, former players on their reaction to Brian Kelly being fired. And what's interesting is like you run through some of this: Malik Neighbors, Braden Swinson, Patrick Queen, Trey Holly, Braden Fajoko, Brandon LaFell, Xavier Atkins, Reed Ferguson, who are all maybe not saying the nicest things about Brian Kelly. Some of them are former players. You mentioned Trey Holly, Bernard Causey, who was here and then transferred out. I think one thing is very obvious. Former players did not have a great feeling toward Brian Kelly. And the reason, I believe, pretty obvious. When he came in, one of the first things he did was he closed the door on the former players. Ed Ogeron had a policy when he was the head coach. Ed Ogeron did a very smart thing, and that was Derek Panamsky was Ed's right hand, and when Ed got the interim, he brought Derek from this studio over to, well, I guess we were downstairs at the time, but anyway, from co-host of the morning show on this station with Jordy to go be his, the assistant to the head coach. And Derek knew the pulse of the fan base and the lay of the land and what people liked and didn't like from Les, and Ed immediately opened practice to the media. They started the Tiger Walk where they invited former players to walk down the hill with the team, and then they opened everything, football ops, workout facilities, practice, everything to former players. Never needed to invite former players, come whenever they wanted. And so he gained a ton of goodwill with fans, media, and former players. When Brian Kelly got the job, he closed the door to the former players. So to say, if you wanted to come to practice, it's fine, but call ahead and schedule that you're coming and all that sort of stuff. And so a lot of former players didn't like being locked out of the program. Now, I understand and respect very much the contributions former players make. I'm not a former player. I also understand that a coach has to run a program the way they want to run the program, and I respect that. But you look at some current players, like Whit Weeks, for example, put on his IG story a picture of a team prayer with Kelly, with Weeks there, with his arm around him, everyone on a knee in the locker room, a heart and a tiger face emoji. It's very clearly Whit Weeks, one of your team leaders, one of your captains, showing support for Brian Kelly. Colin Hurley shared on social media, for those that missed this earlier, of course, Colin Hurley, who went through a very serious situation with this car wreck, medically induced coma, the recovery, rehab. Colin Hurley tweeted a bit ago a couple of photos with he and Brian Kelly, and he says, "I don't care what anyone has to say about this man. The impact he had on my life is something that can never be taken away from me. He loved me each and every day. He cared for me endlessly through my best days and my worst. I love you, Coach, forever." And this is all to say, listen, Kenny Lacy, who was here in this studio a few weeks ago, shared a picture of Coach Frank, and he said, this dude actually came and sat down with our family and showed us real, genuine love when my son died, along with a couple of other coaches. He said, I didn't even get a call or a text from that dude, meaning Kelly, in the back. Must be nice to get paid millions to get your walking papers. Let's get it, Coach Frank. Well, Kyron Lacey's mother responded, actually, to the contrary, with a supportive post of Brian Kelly. All this to say, I think whatever reaction Candace said, Brian Kelly absolutely called me after Kyron passed. We spoke more than once. Coach Sloan met with me as well, along with much of the staff. Coach Kelly spoke beautifully at Kyron's funeral, honoring his life, impact he made on and off the field. Anyway, all this to say, whatever reaction you're seeking, you're going to find. But understand that there is good that'll go along with the negative as well.
AFR.
Arco Power Systems, arco.com, ARCCO, arco.com. That's the website. Arco Power Systems, this is industrial generator power. This is industrial Generac power. So these are Generac generators for your business. We talk about home standby generators a lot. That is not Arco. Arco provides standby power for your commercial building, your industrial facility. What happens to your business when the power goes out? For many businesses, that's not an option. You have to have a standby power option for your business when the power goes out, whether it's a hurricane, a thunderstorm, snow and ice, which we've had here as well. Arco is there. They can install permanent standby power options. They can rent options in the event of an outage. They can service your generator, and they have offices all over the Gulf South. Arco.com, ARCCO, arco.com.